What does it truly mean to be in the working class? Are you in the working class, or are you closer to the brink of financial independence? In this video, we'll reveal 7 specific income classes in both Canada and the US, who belongs in each, and how small shifts in strategy can lead to big changes. I find people watch these videos for 2 specific reasons. 1, to figure out where they fall currently in that income range, where they're at in placement to other people. And the second reason is more subtle, but people want to know, how can I move up an income class? How can I better my financial situation and improve my current net worth? What do I have to do to make that happen? That's at least what I think when I watch these videos, because everybody wants to improve and do better financially, right? So I'll go through both of those things in this video. For 1, you'll find out where you're at in the income ladder, and 2, you'll figure out practical steps and outline of how you can actually climb that financial ladder. The 7 levels of wealth. Where do you stand? What about the way you think about your income, your net worth, even your financial goals has been all wrong this entire time? Most people know when they're just barely surviving, struggling, are comfortable, or even thriving. But far fewer understand what this means in the big picture. And here's the thing, your wealth level affects much more than just your income. It shapes the kind of neighborhood you live in, whether you rent or own, the schools your children can attend, the vacations you can actually afford, and even the opportunities that you're exposed to. Looking at income solely as a dollar figure can be misleading if you don't consider how this translates into the life you want to live and the future that you're building. The 7 levels of wealth give us a structure to understand this more clearly. Each has its own unique challenges and opportunities, and most people fall squarely into one of these 7 groups. It starts at the poverty level, where basic needs such as food and housing often rely on assistance programs and government support. From there, we move up to the working class, where individuals might have a steady job but still lack the financial security. Then there's the typical middle class that most people refer to, where people have steady jobs, may be able to save even a little bit for retirement or savings, but are still struggling financially to some degree. They are limited in their resources for long-term wealth building. Many people, I feel, are currently at this stage somewhat. The middle class forms the center of this spectrum, with modest savings, home ownership for many, and the ability to spend on essentials. In the upper middle class, significant investments and wealth building beyond a primary source of income starts to come into play. Approximately 17% in Canada and 15% in the United States identify themselves as being upper middle class. Next, we have the upper class, and this is where the percentages of people that qualify for this class get a lot smaller. Upper class people don't have to rely on one single source of income like a job to start. Usually they have other sources of income. They start to have home ownership of assets. Maybe they own small businesses and have large investment portfolios. Finally, the ultra wealthy, the top 1%, stand in a league of their own, with wealth measured more by influence and power than simply income alone. I could even go into the top 0.1%, and everybody is aware of this, and this is the top elite that control a lot of Canada and the US, and they're completely in another category, but you hear about them all over the news. They're the Mr. Burns of Canada and the US, so to speak. Here's where things get a little bit tricky though. Most people don't know exactly where they fall, what class they specifically belong to. A millennial couple earning $90,000 a year might solidly believe that they're part of the middle class. But after covering things like housing, student loans, childcare, they might find that they're living paycheck to paycheck and are actually closer to the working class in practical terms. Meanwhile, someone with a great job pulling in an awesome salary of $200,000 a year might think they're part of the upper middle class, at least on paper, but struggle with rising property taxes and the ever-increasing cost of private schools for their children. These misunderstandings about where you currently stand can lead to missed opportunities or the chance for advancement and to move up because you don't know where you are in reality. To get even more specific, let's look at some income numbers. In the US, households in the middle class typically make between $52,000 to $156,000 a year. Though even within this range, cost of living differences can create a huge gap in lifestyles. Living on $80,000 a year in New York will stretch your budget much farther than that same amount would if you lived in a small town in the Midwest. In Canada, these thresholds are similar but not identical. For example, a household income of $52,000 to $115,000 is considered to be middle class in Canada. But here is where net worth complicates things. While income reflects the money coming in, net worth determines what you actually own after you pay your debts. In both Canada and the US, the top 20% control more than 70% of the wealth in both countries, while the bottom 20% own only a small fraction. It's not just about numbers on a spreadsheet. These are real life consequences. Home ownership, often seen as a hallmark of reaching the middle class and beyond, show just how these disparities play out. Across North America, home ownership is increasingly tied to income and your income class. While middle-income families may be able to afford a house with budgeting and discipline, rising property prices have forced these people to become somewhat permanent renters, even though their income says they should be able to buy. And this connects back to spending habits too. Working-class households tend to spend the majority of their income on food, rent, and transportation. The upper portions of this pyramid, however, are able to more easily allocate their income towards retirement, new cars, even vacations, while the wealthiest enjoy investments that continue to grow and blossom and accumulate wealth for them faster than they could ever spend. So why does all of this matter? Because understanding your current position, where you actually stand or fall in this pyramid, makes it easier to understand what you actually need to move forward and up to the next class. It also highlights why progress might feel slower than expected. Moving between wealth levels often requires more than simply hard work. There's a web of systematic factors and personal choices that come into play. The question is, how do you navigate them? We'll talk about that next.
You have to understand accounting. It's the language. I mean, it's like being in a foreign country without knowing the language if you're in business and you don't understand accounting.
I've been investing for 20 years now, and I think it's safe to say I know my stuff. If this sounds like something you'd be interested in, consider subscribing to my channel. The hidden barriers to economic mobility. Why do so many people feel trapped in their current class despite how much hard work they put in? They simply can't advance. On the surface, it seems logical. Work harder, earn more, move up. But the reality is far more complicated. Economic mobility, the ability to move between classes, is influenced by a mix of systematic, social, and personal factors. Understanding these barriers is crucial because your income class doesn't just impact your current financial situation. It also determines the opportunities available to you and whether or not you're able to pass that wealth on to the next generation, your family. Take Canada, for example. Only 10% of people born in the bottom 20% are able to move up to the top 20%, a strikingly low success rate. Contrast this with the United States, where economic mobility is perceived as being more achievable. While the US struggles with significant inequality, there is evidence to suggest that individuals can rise up the financial ladder at least one rung from where they began. Even so, moving from the very bottom of the financial ladder to the very top seems like a nearly impossible feat no matter which country you live in, largely due to structural barriers that go beyond any one person's control. Access to quality, affordable education plays a critical role in determining one person's future earnings potential, but it's far from evenly distributed.
People who don't go to college might avoid debt, but they can end up in worse shape. 50 years ago, they could also afford a house and a couple kids, but today, that's much harder. Their wages are actually lower now.
The bottom has fallen out on non-college educated workers.
So you have to go to college.
In Canada, skyrocketing tuition fees for secondary education place a heavy burden on low-income families, often leading to debt that takes decades to repay.
But it's true, 2/3 of all jobs in America require at least some college. This is the standard now. And that wasn't the case when most members of this committee were in school. And you paid far less for your degrees. That's not speculation. We looked up where the 60 members of this committee went to college, in what your school's tuition was at that time. Even adjusting for inflation, college cost way less across the board.
Meanwhile, those in higher income classes can more easily afford to pay for secondary education completely outright, leaving more room for those young people to invest in property or build businesses right after graduation. Similar trends are visible in the US, where elite institutions often serve as gateways to top-tier jobs and employment, but only if you can afford the entrance. Regional economics further complicate the story. In some provinces and states, economic opportunities are heavily concentrated in large urban centers, leaving rural areas with fewer high-paying jobs and less access to career-advancing resources. Someone born in a small rural Canadian town may face far limited economic prospects than someone raised in the city of Toronto, even if they share similar levels of education and skills. This disparity reinforces geographical divides and makes upward mobility more closely related to where you're born rather than your potential. Generational wealth is another defining factor, and here, younger generations are finding themselves at a significant disadvantage. Canadians under 35 has seen their net worth increase in recent years, but it still pales in comparison when compared with older generations. In 2024, Canadians aged 55 to 64 held a staggering $1.6 million on average in net worth, often thanks to real estate appreciation and growth in retirement savings. Compare this to individuals who are under 35 whose average net worth is $338,000. While this figure might seem high, young Canadians are facing unprecedented housing costs and heavy debt loads, making it harder to build wealth at the same pace as their parents. This financial pressure isn't just limited to younger generations. Government policies, specifically taxes, create an uneven playing field for those trying to climb the financial ladder. In the United States, systemic issues with taxation are clear. The bottom 20% of earners pay about 16% of their income in taxes, while the top 1% pay about 30.8%. At first glance, this tax system might seem progressive, but hidden tax advantages for the wealthiest, like lower capital gains rates, allow the ultra-wealthy to avoid paying their full share, widening the gap. Even the idea of working your way up overlooks deeper systemic issues. Lack of affordable job training and ongoing disparities in hiring practices may mean that people, particularly those starting at lower rungs, never get the chance to take that first step forward. We all are aware that the hiring system is pretty broken, and it's not what you know, but who you know. And don't even get me started on entry-level positions. We want someone with 5 years experience.
That'll drive me nuts. And
I'll get off topic, so I'm not even going there. When access to opportunities is unequal, hard work alone isn't enough to overcome these obstacles. These barriers highlight a harsh truth. Wealth levels are hard to climb for reasons that extend beyond a person's personal effort. If the system seems designed to hold you back, the question becomes clear. What steps can you take to actually break through to the next level? We'll discuss that next. Strategies to climb the wealth ladder. If breaking through wealth levels seems nearly impossible, the question becomes, what strategies generally work? For millennials and young professionals trying to move up, the key isn't just to work harder. It's about making smarter financial moves that will help your situation, the circumstances and opportunities that you can seize now. One common mistake that many people make is that by making more money, this will solve their financial problems. And I completely understand what the sentiment me people have. I was there too. I just need to make about $1,000 more a month. That should be enough to solve all my financial headaches. Then I'll be able to more easily pay my bills, save for retirement. That's what many people think. I know, because I was there. But income alone is usually only one piece of the puzzle. Take someone who makes $90,000 a year, and every time they get a raise, they spend that money upgrading their apartment, their house, their car, buying extravagant things that they don't need. Now, this, I understand, is rare circumstances, but it happens more often than you think, and very subtly. They start to get more subscriptions, they slowly start to upgrade. Living within your means is one of those things that is easy to say and much harder to actually implement. Without a shift in priorities, this person will likely have very little to show for their efforts. Even after years of hard work, instead of funneling extra income towards expenses, funnel that money into investments and learning about investing. This is one way you'll be able to climb that financial ladder quicker. Consistently putting 10 to 20% of your take-home pay aside and towards investments will propel you forward much faster. This is based on time, the amount you contribute, and consistent discipline. Time in the market beats trying to time the market. The earlier you start and the more you contribute, the faster your wealth will grow due to compound interest. This will create a snowball effect and it'll get larger with every passing year. Beyond investments, a real financial plan is sitting down and mapping out all of your expenses. So go through all of your receipts. I know it's a pain. Go through your bank statement, your credit card statement, find all those little leaks of where you're losing money and assess where you're currently at and how much money you actually need. Nobody's going to give a top-ranking CEO a loan if he has no clue on what he actually needs. Most people say, I just need to make more money. Okay, that's fair. How much more money exactly do you need to be financially free? And most people have no clue. I don't know, 1,000, 2,000 maybe. They have no clue. So that kind of tells me they don't know where their money is going in the first place. And if you start plugging those little drips of where you're starting to lose money, you'll find it more easily to channel that money towards investments. A lot of people avoid this step of going through their finances because they're scared of what they might actually find.
Do it. Do it now.
I think Sam on Cheers said it best.
Well, all right. Here's a simple rule I live my life by. Ignore the problem. It'll go away.
That's a joke. Hey, if you feel like you're getting something out of this video, would you do me a favor and hit the like button? Plus, leave me a comment with whatever you want to say, even if it's just to say hi. Much appreciated. You have to think positively, right? If you start making positive steps towards your investments and sitting down and mapping out your finances, at least you're getting somewhere. I know. I tried that positive thinking once, but I knew it wouldn't work. That's another joke. It's impossible to move forward if you don't know your starting point. From there, setting up smart goals becomes powerful. Let's say buying a home is part of your long-term vision. Instead of vaguely thinking, oh, someday I'll buy a home, sit down and figure out exactly what you can afford and what you need to set aside or make every month. Take actionable steps towards that goal. Break it down into simple, manageable steps, because then your dream becomes a goal and your goal slowly starts to become a reality because you're taking actual practical steps. How much do I need for a down payment? What are the constraints on my budget? Where can I free up money? Start channeling your efforts towards actionable, measurable, specific targets. For middle-income households, real estate investing can become a powerful tool. However, in Canada, right now, everything's kind of going topsy-turvy. They have it in the US as well, but nowhere as bad as here. Like real estate is just all over the place. So consider making it a small part of your investment portfolio, but lean on index funds and ETFs if you're new to investing. Home ownership isn't just about a place to live. It's about building equity that appreciates as your property appreciates. But with rising house prices in cities like New York, Toronto, Vancouver, even Calgary, many people are assuming that home ownership is becoming more unattainable. It's true. Home ownership is extremely difficult now and is very challenging to save up for that down payment. But while you're renting, if you're taking actual steps of setting money aside, you have that disposable income, you're making it more of a reality. If buying property isn't feasible now, redirect those savings and investments towards appreciating assets. The stock market, for instance, has created more millionaires than almost every other investment category. Again, as a general disclaimer, I am many things, a corporate accountant, analyst. However, I am not a financial advisor. This information is for educational and entertainment purposes only, and you should always consult a financial advisor for your investment and financial needs. Tracking your progress is good, and it's a great start. Sit down with your bank, go through your bank statements. There are so many places to start, and doing something is far better than doing nothing at all. This ongoing monitoring is easy to hit a plateau or slide back in to bad habits. Treat it less like a chore and more like a routine check-in with your future self. One of the biggest advantages you can give your future self for an investment is to invest in your financial education. Learning how money works, the power of compound interest, a few little tax advantage accounts, and how taxes can work for you and not just against you. Tax efficient retirement accounts, savings accounts, investing accounts, these can all pay off greatly for you if you take a little bit of time and look into them. Climbing the financial ladder is rarely easy, but it is possible if you adopt the right strategy. You have discipline and have the right mindset. It won't happen today or overnight, but little daily micro habit changes will dramatically impact your future self. Wealth, as I say, is not just numbers in a bank account somewhere. It dictates how we feel about ourselves, and it kind of governs how we live our life. I want you to remember this. Each level of wealth requires a deviation or a change in strategy. So many people just think of, oh, I have to work harder. Apply your efforts wisely because it changes with each level of income as you go up. For many, owning real estate, stocks, investing in small ventures or businesses becomes critical. Decide which of these avenues is the right fit for you. The harsh truth is, many people will tell you to do this or that, and we're just overloaded with information out there. Some good, some very questionable or downright bad or misleading. The more you learn about investments and finance and how to properly manage your money, the better you'll become, and you'll be able to pick out good information from bad information. Again, if you're new to my channel, I'm Aaron, a 20-year corporate accountant and analyst living in Western Canada. I try to create videos that are fun, entertaining at the same time, but also educational, geared around investments and investment portfolios. If this all sounds like something you'd be interested in, consider subscribing to my channel. I'd love to have you. If you're interested in how to create a rock-solid investment portfolio, check out this next video here.